Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Being the Marshmallow, Living and Coping with PTSD. I am Bob Wagner. Blimey and Pete are off doing holiday-type stuff, so they won't be joining me in the studio today. First things first, I want to apologize for how long it's been since my last video. Real life kind of has been getting in the way. There's been a lot of stuff going on at work, and I've also been, quite frankly, working on my own self-care and my own recovery. But no excuse. We're back in the saddle. So this week I want to talk, well, I'm going to be doing two videos. The first thing I want to talk about is overstimulation. When you have PTSD or indeed many other neurological disorders, you can be extremely sensitive to various sounds and sensations. There's a lot of sensory resonance, if you will, a lot of connection between traumatic events and various sensory input. Touch is obviously a big one. You know, if you were ever assaulted or you're a rape survivor, you won't like people touching you. They've done studies that show that the sense of smell is the one most closely connected to human memory. And of course, you see this very commonly with veterans who've actually been in combat theater, where they don't like fireworks because they were traumatized as a result of being around other types of explosions and big white blinding flashes in the sky. And so they don't associate fireworks with pretty pictures in the sky. They associate it with some of the worst moments of their life. So I want to talk about overstimulation because this is a very important thing. It's something that happens to all of us. The first thing I want to say is don't be embarrassed, okay? If the word normal can apply to having a trauma disorder or an anxiety disorder, this is a perfectly normal part of the process. Your brain simply gets overloaded. If you have this, if you have PTSD or panic attacks or any of these other things, you are already running very, very near, if not beyond, the human threshold of a tolerance. Your brain is essentially, it's a computer, and it's essentially running at a perpetual state of either near or at overclocked. Okay, you can only overclock your computer so much, so long before it burns out on you. And we're already typically running really deep in the red in respect to that. Very, very close to the limits of what we can handle simply doing our day-to-day stuff. So, for instance, at my day job, a few weeks ago at this point, I actually had a situation where I had a coworker off to one side. He was talking in my ear. I had two customers on the other side of the counter. They were both trying to engage me independent of one another, and I had three kids on the floor right next to them playing with these very noisy toys that we sold. And I admit, it got incredibly overwhelming, and it rose up in me, and I really, really wanted to have an episode. In fact, it was really a pretty significant battle not to. That's just one example. You're probably going to find these other similar examples in your day-to-day life. We all have them. And what you want to do when you get into situations like that is, as you see yourself, if at all possible, if you have any warning at all, as you see yourself getting towards an overstimulated place, first things first, if at all possible, exit yourself from the situation, okay? We're going to talk more about this in another video. Always give yourself permission to practice self-care, okay? Pardon my language, social convention be damned, okay? Practice self-care first. If you can exit yourself from the situation, that's the best thing to do. Politely just say, excuse me, I need to step away for a moment until you can level out. If not, remember to work on your breathing techniques, okay? Find some anchor, calm yourself. Breathe in, breathe out. Try to stop yourself from getting overstimulated with adrenaline, which is going to help keep the symptoms at bay. The other thing that you can do is focus on one specific point. Literally just like zero in on one specific thing and tune out as much as possible this other stuff, okay? What I did in my particular case was we have this pen cup on the cash register counter at my job. And I've got all this stuff going on. And it's really overwhelming, and I'm starting to get very, very angry and very, very defensive and really wanting to do something both personally and professionally inappropriate. And I couldn't exit the situation because I simply lacked the ability to. It was impossible for me to do so. So I focused on this pen cup, and I made that pen cup my entire awareness until I was able to deal with what else was going on. And see, what that does is that creates a buffer by focusing in on one specific thing. Like, for instance, this cute little Jameson bottle that I got for my birthday. You know, if I was feeling overstimulated here, I'd focus on this because it's visually compelling. It's something that I can see. It's right in front of me. And that creates a buffer zone between my brain and all of the other stimulus that's going on. And you can still be aware of what's going on. I was still able to I was still aware of the fact that my coworker had a question and my customers wanted to be rung up and everything. But by placing that sort of mental distance there, I was able to continue functioning. And again, I keep on going back to this, and I probably sound like a broken record here, but that is the whole point. You can't help that you have a disorder. You can't help that you have a panic disorder or a trauma disorder, but you need to be able to work on techniques that allow you to function in society. Doing this makes it possible for you to have this and still function. And yes, you're still feeling these things. I was still feeling very angry and very trapped and very much wanting to verbally lash out at literally everybody around me. I really wanted to just say, would you all please just shut up? But I didn't, because that would be inappropriate. And in order to prevent myself from doing that and lashing out at these people who had done nothing to me and costing my job, create that buffer zone, and that enables me to cope, and that will enable you to cope, because we don't want to lash out at people around us who are not themselves harming us. The people in our lives, they don't necessarily mean us any ill will. They don't intend to hurt us. My customers weren't trying to set me off. My coworker wasn't trying to set me off. The kids were just being kids. They didn't deserve the sharp side of my mouth, and I knew that. And that is something we need to maintain an awareness of at all times. If we get overstimulated and we cannot exit the situation, we need to find a way to calm ourselves with our breathing and finding a focal object, like, say, this cute little Jameson bottle, which, bonus points, it's whiskey. Yay, whiskey! And that way, we are able to control the condition. It does not control us. And don't be embarrassed if this happens, okay? You have a medical disorder. These things will happen. So, in summation, if you find yourself getting overstimulated, first off, identify the stimulus, okay? Something's a strong smell, loud noise, too much touching. Second off, if you can exit yourself from the situation in a polite manner, please, that really should be the first step. Get away. Create physical distance. By creating physical distance, you are creating a sense of physical safety. By creating a sense of physical safety, you are creating a sense of psychological safety. By creating a sense of psychological safety, you are lowering your symptomatic levels. You are making it less likely that the disease will be able to keep its hooks in you. If you cannot exit yourself from the situation, give yourself permission to do that. Even something as simple as, would you please, just please remove your hands from me. If you can't exit yourself from the situation, then remember, breathe. Find a focal object. To the best of your ability, create a buffer zone, a psychological buffer zone. Yes, it is kind of a placebo, mental placebo. These people are still yik-yakking at you, and there's still these noises. But that's what a lot of psychology is it's basically tricking yourself into being able to function under circumstances where other people can't. And that is an essential skill we need to develop when we have these conditions. The late, great Terry Pratchett called it headology, basically tricking your brain into doing stuff. Find a focal object. Focus on it so that you are able to deal with things and you have enough distance from the stimulus that it doesn't overwhelm you and wash you underneath. And then, finally, when you are able to, as soon as you're able to, as soon as circumstances permit, take the time to exit yourself from your present circumstances, go somewhere, and just take a couple of minutes to practice self-care, okay? Calm down. I'm not saying go to like some safe space like these whinging college kids, or, oh, I need to go color in Petalama, this bullshit that we're seeing on college campuses these days. Go somewhere like we've talked about at other times. You know, at my job, you know, it's not uncommon for me to slip into the back room for a couple of seconds and take a breath. You know, we've talked about other things, you know, public restroom stall, an unused room at a friend's home, wherever, just someplace where you can just take a minute to kind of breathe and remind yourself that you're safe and remind yourself that things are going to be okay. And just take a couple of minutes to do that and take care of yourself. Because, again, that is what we want to do. We want to remind ourselves that it's okay, that we're safe, and that the stuff that gave us this is no longer in play, and that we're going to be all right. Once you're back calmed down, once you're not feeling completely overwhelmed and completely swamped and completely drowned by all this stuff, go back about your business. And on that note, have a great day. Be well, be safe, be here next time. Bye-bye.